Episode 332, Global from Asia. We are talking with Alibaba about Tmall and Chinese e-commerce cross-border. A little bit of Taobao too. Let's tune in.
Welcome to the Global from Asia podcast, where the daunting process of running an international business is broken down into straight-up, actionable advice. And now, your host, Michael Michelini.
We survived elections, at least, I'm recording this a few days before we go live I think no matter what, whatever president, e-commerce, online business is going to be booming. I think so many people have been talking to me about getting into e-commerce, a product they've been wanting to do, a business they've been wanting to do, their offline business they want to bring online. So today's show, I think you'll enjoy. I'm really happy to have somebody from Alibaba sharing with us, Sharon Gai. She is working with key accounts, working with foreign businesses, foreign brands coming into China. And she gives us some insights for small to medium to large size businesses, different strategies, things I've learned a few things, also ways without even having to put a huge deposit down and ways to do it all different kinds of styles. So I really enjoyed this. We did this live. We also had Catherine in our community at GFA VIP helping out on the show, and we had some others talking, and we had networking after. So I do hope everybody enjoys this session. We have this in, of course, audio format. This is video. If you're watching this on video, you can see my talking head. I don't know if you prefer that, but we started audio, but we are upgrading to live and video as well. So without further ado, let's get into Sharon Gai from Alibaba talking about some strategies and tactics to get into the Chinese market cross-border into China. Thank you to our new GFAVIP.com members. We've been getting people applying and joining. Thank you so much. We want to provide value to everybody on the internet, everybody in the world, to get information to you. But if you want even more access to our community, to our network, to me, and to others, we would love to talk to you. Sign up at GFAVIP.com, application only. All right. Thank you, everybody. Welcome to our live stream and our members networking session. This is we've been preparing for quite a few days now, so I'm really excited for today's session. We have with us Sharon Gai from Alibaba talking about Tmall. She's a director of key accounts. Thanks for joining us today, Sharon.
Yeah, of course, it's a pleasure. Thanks for the invitation.
Yeah, it's going to be great. And we have Catherine helping us out. She's in our community. She's based in London. So thanks also, Catherine.
Hello.
All right. So we have a lot to talk about today. So the format we're going right into this is stage mode for those watching. So this is going to be our main session of knowledge sharing, and then we'll have some questions and answers, and then we'll go into this networking mode. So it'll be an action-packed session today. So Sharon, you're in Hangzhou, right? The capital of Alibaba.
The capital. Yes, we call this our headquarters. I'm on Shishi campus. It's named after Shishi wetlands, which is a swamp that the Han government discovered and turned into a very beautiful. Now I believe it's rated as a 5A tourist like a place of natural scenery. Yeah.
Cool.
That's where our HQ is.
And you've been with Alibaba for a few years. You worked also before being director of key accounts. You were working with the catalog department, which in the fast-moving consumer group, which is pretty cool. So you must have seen quite a lot happening at the company.
I have. I've been very fortunate to be in a role where I can see across the platform into many different brands, and to listen to many different brands, and to talk to many different brands from China and also from abroad about their plans and what they think about Chinese e-commerce. So I've seen a good spectrum of the type of companies that are out here, the brands that are eyeing the Chinese market also. I've heard some of their trials and tribulations, also a lot of failures too, about how brands wanted to come into the Chinese market but found it to be very difficult. So, yeah.
Awesome. Yeah, it's great to have your insights. So I think a lot of times people think Alibaba, they think of the B2B platform for finding factories and suppliers, but obviously there's so much more. And today we're talking about Tmall primarily, and like you said, the Chinese e-commerce market. When did that get started? About how did that get all into? Because it did start as a directory, which people know, but then I think in 2003, if I'm correct, or
Yeah, so that was the birth year of Taobao. So the history of Ali, we want to go into that a bit, just to provide some context for everyone,
sure,
because
sure.
it's actually quite a mystery for a lot of people who don't know so much about the company. So Alibaba.com is the very first product, the very first business facing product that Alibaba started out with. And that was started in 1999 by Jack Ma. So it was originally meant to be a yellow pages for factories, for specifically factories in China, to just bring them online. The myth or legend goes that Jack one time was in the States. I think he was in San Francisco or Seattle. He was definitely on the West Coast, and that was when somebody showed him the quote unquote internet for the first time in the format of a GUI. And he searched everything. He searched Europe, he searched the United States, and then he searched China, and then nothing came up. And then that's when he realized, wow, my entire country is not online. And that's when he discovered that entire business opportunity. So his first step, so Alibaba Group 1.0 is really just to bring China online and to connect China to the world. So he did that through Alibaba.com.
Okay.
That eventually became our to-B business unit that carried through the company for a very long time, and it became its major source of profit. And from there, Taobao grew in 2003. So that was the birth of the first consumer-facing marketplace. So that was our first C2C marketplace, where anyone in China could list a product. So it was sort of like the Craigslist back in the day. And then from there, I believe it was 2006. I might have my years wrong. That
Okay.
Tmall was so this is all, by the way, on Google and on all
Yeah,
of the
I
books.
understand.
Yeah, so it was first called Taobao Shangcheng, which is like a Taobao mall, and then that was how the word Tmall came to be. So Taobao Mall, shortened itself Tmall.
Okay, great. Thanks for that overview. I really appreciate that. And so foreign, like let's talk about the Chinese consumer a little bit. I mean, you talked to a lot of foreign brands. I have a lot of people always wanting to enter the Chinese market. They see the huge numbers, they see the opportunity. What kind of things do you usually say is the advantages for a foreign brand in China, or what kind of categories?
The advantages of a foreign brand in China. So I think from a very long time ago, that I think the Chinese consumer market really was they appreciated foreign goods. They appreciated things that were made out of China because it felt very authentic. And sometimes, if it was a food product, the ingredients are better, the ingredients are fresher. So you hear a lot of that. I think that was more so the trend back in maybe 5 to 10 years ago. Now, in the year of 2020, you see a lot more Chinese people being proud of made in China and buying Chinese manufactured goods. But that isn't to say that foreign goods and imported goods is disappearing by any means. In fact, import into China is definitely increasing year over year. So if we're talking about the platform of Tmall Global, which is the B2C e-commerce platform that imports all of these foreign goods. Some of our top categories are beauty, specifically in cosmetics and skincare. Food is a huge one. Health supplements is a huge one. Electronics, home goods, fashion we do a little bit because some of the luxury brands or luxury items are known to be a lot more authentic because Tmall Global focuses heavily on what we call 溯源, which is buying from the source or importing from the source. To the point where they will follow the journey of a product from its manufacturer, from the factories of Italy, if it's a leather good, for instance, and follow its journey all the way for the product to board the plane and go through all the logistics pieces and into China. But I would say Tmall Global is definitely very, very heavily focused on beauty brands. Or I guess we can label that as personal goods.
Personal goods. All right. Taking some notes. Catherine, do you have anything you'd like to add? Or?
Yeah, I have a question. I think some of the things a lot of SME brands would like to know is I think it's general knowledge the cost of acquisition of new customer in China is generally quite high compared to other platforms in the Western world. So what kind of budget or what size of the SM need to be in order to start selling and tap into that market?
So there's not a specific number that we ever recommend to our brands. If we're to ballpark a figure of a percentage of the budget to spend on marketing and whatnot, we'd say at least a 15 to 20% if you are serious about growing the Chinese market and if you're here to stay. A lot of brands have spot tested here and there pieces of the e-commerce platform through another method of entering the Chinese market called Taobao Global versus Tmall Global. So Taobao Global is just another business unit. It's more run under the Taobao business unit, and you're a lot freer as a brand to start a Taobao Global account and to start selling and start importing into China, where it's not as a heavy investment like opening a Tmall Global flagship store, where it takes a lot of planning, hiring of TPs, and really having a solid 3 to 5 year plan of growing out that brand in the Chinese market. So there's various different ways of entering China.
It seems like the recommended approach is Taobao.
Yeah. The terms can get very confusing because there's a lot of because we have Tmall Global, then we have Tmall International, and then we have Tmall World. So it gets very confusing sometimes for all the brands. And then there's Taobao, and then you put Taobao Global in the mix. Sometimes it's quite confusing for brands to hear all of that and decipher which is which.
Got it. So yeah, let's talk about getting onto the platform. There are fees or deposits for Tmall, and now I'm actually taking notes. I didn't even know until you just said Taobao Global. But what are some of the normal? I mean, similar question, but maybe numbers of deposits, or usually is it a Hong Kong company? Is it a U.S. company that has the cross-border and then the payments and then a deposit? Maybe we just talk a little bit about the technical part.
Sure. You can be if you want to enter Tmall Global, you can be any entity. You don't have to be a specific type of entity. That's the power that enables you to enter it that way. I have a bit of an echo on it. I'm not sure why.
Yeah, I'm noticing an echo on mine too.
Well, that's okay. So there's a one-time deposit between 30 to 50,000 RMB, and this is a deposit for the brand to sell a certain amount of GMV. After you've reached that certain amount of GMV, if you are ever to close the store, this deposit will go back to you. So this is just a sort of like a peg to as a commitment to the platform that you pay. And then there is an annual fee that's around 30 to 60,000 RMB, and that is an annual fee that one does have to pay. And then there's what we call a commission on top of for the platform. So that's usually 1% to 5%, depending on your category. So some categories are a bit lower, some categories are a bit higher. But the maximum is 5% there. And then there is the Alipay transaction cost. So because Alipay is the underlying financial institution that's running all of these transactions, there's a platform fee given to Alipay in the course of all of those transactions.
Got it.
And then, and that's not counting your TP fees if ever you were to hire a TP to manage your brand. But I would say a good 20 to 30% should be budgeted out just to pay for platform fees and whatnot.
Okay. So TP, I just want to make sure, even I don't know what that is, I guess. So maybe I'll admit I don't know, but maybe for others they don't know.
Admit anything.
I'll just admit I'm
Tmall partner, is that what it is?
Yeah, exactly. That's totally correct. Stands for Tmall partner, and its sole job is to represent Tmall and know all of the rules about Tmall, because Tmall will change its rules quite often, to be very honest. And that's one of the things that we've noticed that is a bit difficult for a foreign brand to get accustomed to, because the rules are constantly changing. But because the TP is usually located in China, they are very on top of all of the changes and rules and whatnot. So there are, I think by now, there are definitely in the tens of thousands of TPs in China, each having their own niche. So some TPs will only want to have food clients, some TPs will only want to have beauty clients, some will only want to have fashion clients. So like all of these TPs have their own sort of niche. Also, some TPs are very, very good with working with very, very large brands like the Adidas and Nike and Microsoft and whatnot. So in that world, there's a very famous one called Baozun. It's now a publicly listed company on the New York Stock Exchange, and they've been they employ a couple thousand of people by now, and they work with the top brands the largest sellers on Tmall. So they've had a wealth and a huge breadth of different clients throughout the years. And then, if you're a brand to enter China, you might not always want to work with somebody like Baozun because they're so big and because they're so formal or structured. And then pricing varies. So there's also a lot of very fast and nimble startup-y type of TPs. And that sometimes is a sweet spot for some brands to work with. So some of those TPs are good with working with a bit of a smaller brand. But to ultimately finding the TP and sort of interviewing the TP and matchmaking with the TP, it's a process. So we normally recommend every brand that wants to enter China to meet at least 3 to 5 TPs to get a good sense of what is out there, what type of clients they've done, because they are truly very, very different.
I understand. Well, thanks for this, and sorry for the echo. I could feel it, but
I think it's gone by now.
But for the TP, this is really insightful for, I think, myself and others. I think a lot of us think we're on our own when we go in. We pay the like the deposit or the fees, and then we have. So I think the TP there's quite a lot to do, right? For cross border, there's the translation and the listings, and then the customer service. That's what they would do normally.
Yep, all of that. So they basically outsource the entire workload the entire workload. And you can give the TP, and you can have the TP do however much you as a client want them to take on. Some TPs will even become your distributor in China. So they'll ask for that right, or you can negotiate that right to with them. Some TPs will refuse to take in any stock because they don't want that capital investment. So again, it just depends on the actual TP that you're working with and the business model that they're most comfortable with.
Okay.
But yeah, so the things they would take on is looking at everything from market research for your brand, seeing if your brand has any type of competitive advantage in the market, coming out with a marketing plan for the brand, coming out with positioning, pricing, and then going into the actual store operation. So opening the store. They might also be the person to facilitate the entire opening the store process, so delivering, so accumulating all of the documents that you need, paying the actual fees. They can outsource all of that for you.
Awesome. This is great. So let's. There's a question from Zach in session. He's asking about supplements. I think that is a very popular one, but I know supplements are very competitive everywhere in the world. Of course, they can be very profitable, and they're also a little bit difficult sometimes to import into the country, any country. That could probably be a whole show of itself. But you mentioned, I think you did even say supplements. So maybe you would find a TP partner to work that specializes in supplements and work with them, or what would what would your input be for that?
What are the requirements for supplement? I'm not exactly a supplement expert, to be honest.
Yeah, I know it's a difficult, specific one.
Yeah, it's okay. But anything that has to do with a product to be ingested in China is quite strict with regulations. So anything in the food category. If you are selling any type of food into China, you do have to have a Chinese translated label, clearly identifying all of the ingredients in that particular product. And it is probably similar for supplements. But when you are listing your product in Tmall Global, there's a huge list or a page of all of the required documents and licenses that you need.
Okay.
To open the store, to begin selling the product.
Got it. So let me just, I like to kind of just go higher level. So let's just recap a little bit. So say I'm in the US and I have a product maybe Chinese are buying and want to buy, or at least I think they want to buy, and I can open up a Tmall Global. I put the deposit, open the account. I'd find a TP partner before I would do that kind of things, or then they would help me hopefully with as much as possible, and then I would launch the product. Of course, this is probably going to take 6 months or so at least. I'm just working here.
The timeline really varies. I think the fastest activation we have seen is a month, or around a month to open the store and for them to decide to turn everything on. But it could last up to a year also, or perhaps 2 years. It just depends on the mothership, and some of the larger brands that we deal with take a long time to okay everything for the Go switch to be turned on. So in terms of timeline, it depends on the ultimate decision maker of that brand, I suppose. But before you open the store, definitely find the TP before you open the store.
Okay.
That's
a good one.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
Okay. Let's talk about some success cases. 1 month sounds like amazing. Let me think. Do you have one that you can give us? Maybe you don't have to reveal their name, or if you can, just some insights of one that's done it like in a good way that we could learn from.
some brands that's done pretty well. I don't know if you know these brands, but there are maybe Catherine will know them because it's more in the beauty category, like
Yeah.
Black Supergoop, Fenty Beauty, Radha Beauty. Radha Beauty, I think, is also like a huge success case on Amazon too.
What's the brand?
Radha Beauty. They sell a lot of Radha Beauty, like Radha Beauty. They do a lot of oils, like vitamin C oil, serums, and things. They do a lot of ingredients-based beauty products. DCM, the Abnormal Company from Canada, if you know them. Oatly might be a brand that
Okay.
know. Charlotte Tilbury is a cosmetics company. Omnipork is a pretty interesting one that came out last year. So Omnipork is similar to Beyond Meat or Impossible Food. So they are plant-based. Yeah.
Okay.
So that is a trend that we're seeing in the food market, plant-based products that made its debut via Tmall Global last year.
So
yeah, so
sorry.
Oh,
I guess
so
just some insights of what they would do or what you think was the key to their success in China, or that'd be pretty awesome to know.
I think these brands were just very good at identifying their unique selling point and coming into the market that is already very, very saturated. So if we compare the consumer market from the China to the US, for instance, even if you go into a supermarket, because I used to live in New York, so I kind of had an idea of all of the type of products that are existing out there versus everything that exists in China, and the number of products and iterations and crossover products that is existing in China. It's just a lot more SKUs out here than it is in the States. Which means that in almost every single product category, everything is very, very saturated. So it's a very competitive consumer space here. But these foreign brands were able to make a splash because they discovered a unique selling point about themselves. And they're also very good at branding and visual branding. To really capture the attention of a lot of these Chinese consumers. Because all of these brands that I said, I think some of them entered offline first, but most of them only did online. So they only did Tmall Global. And then they gradually, as soon as their online sales increased, went into an offline retailer. So that's usually the reverse of how a brand develops. So most brands always grow their sales offline and then enter the online space because e-commerce is a lot is an afterthought. But for some of these brands, it was the reverse. Yeah.
Okay. There's a question from Diane. It kind of does seem to make sense. How do you find a TP? Or how, you said 3 to 5. I mean, what would be some ways? Is it on the sites or on your, talk to somebody at Tmall or?
Yeah, for sure. You can definitely talk to me. I know a lot of them. And I'm very easy to find.
Yeah, Sharon's here. Yeah.
Yeah, so I know a lot of TPs, but also on Google, you can just Google Tmall Global TP. You'll come to a website that should list all of them.
Okay. Awesome, and we'll have some networking. Oh, go ahead, Catherine. Catherine, your turn.
Yeah, one of the contacts I have, she has also cosmetic brands, but a lot of the cosmetics brands now in UK are vegan friendly. So animal cruelty friendly, which means they don't want to be tested on animal. But I understand that for beauty category enter into the Chinese market, they need to go through that process, product testing, which somewhat is involved in animal testing. So how do these future brands going to enter the Chinese market in the cosmetic space?
So that is the big differentiation between Tmall Global and Tmall. So on Tmall, you have to test everything. So everything that's selling on Tmall.com is basically imported into China. It had to clear the borders, the rules and regulations with what you can import, what type of ingredient you can import is very strictly looked at by the customs people. And importing into China can take a while. To get all of those certifications done and to get all the clearances done. So that's all sold on Tmall.com. And that's why I suppose beauty is a very big category on Tmall Global. Because in the Tmall Global beauty category, we don't require beauty brands to be tested on animals. Because it's a regulation that the platform has because it's sourced from that particular country, and it's also a regulation that the import-export team in the Chinese government set for us to have that leeway.
Great. That's great. That's really nice to know. Yeah, this has been really insightful. And let's go the other way, like the ones that didn't do so well, that, maybe had high hopes, or maybe you must deal with a lot of brands, and of course we want everyone to succeed, but what are some trends you maybe see the ones that either failed or spent a lot more time or money than they needed to? Like what we can learn from mistakes?
I've seen a lot of fashion brands come and then left the China market. I think Forever 21, if I'm not mistaken, had opened and then closed. And then was it Old Navy that came and also left? And their stores were they hung around for a couple of years before they gave up and left the market. And in those instances, I think they just it was the category was probably the toughest piece. So you have to find as a brand the niche part about the brand and really know the Chinese market to know if it can compete or not locally. And if your branding is strong enough that it'll resonate with a Chinese consumer. When those two pieces are not there, so if you're not a very niche or unique product, nor are you very good at branding or storytelling, that's when the two biggest pieces that will make you a success it will be very difficult for you to survive.
Okay. Yeah, I think to carry on from that, or at least maybe you can correct me if I'm wrong, but a lot of people say people come to China and they see 1 billion customers and they target all 1 billion customers, right? But you're saying like niche down, focus on a segment, like even a small niche, in China is huge. And we say the same in Amazon or overseas too. So what are some ways people could test their product, before they make these investments, or no? Maybe I think sometimes Chinese try to buy from their overseas website, right? They see Chinese either going to the stores or buying, from their overseas websites. What are some ways people could know that they have something before they dive in too much?
Mm-hmm. So Taobao Global, the way that I said before, is a pretty low cost and way to test the market. There's also another app called Little Red Book, 小红书 in China. It's a very brand friendly app. It's quite low cost to test out your products there. And another really good way is to find some KOLs or KOCs in the Chinese market and give the product to them, because these KOLs and KOCs deal with a mass amount of brands on a day-to-day basis. And so they themselves are a wealth of information and a wealth of knowledge as to what their fans will like. And all of them have a couple thousand, 100,000, a couple millions of fans. And so they're sort of a good gateway to instantly let you know if this might work or might not work.
Awesome. Okay, so there's one more question. I think we're going to go into the networking tables. People can get to talk to you more directly. There's some people here that have questions. Diane's asking about before-after pictures. I guess she's working on a cosmetic brand, and so is that a possible to do in Tmall, or is there rules against that or for that?
A cosmetics brand? Yeah, of course. And you can choose to do Tmall Global or Tmall.
Okay, I guess. Well, sorry if there's she has a before picture and an after picture. Is that okay to do there? She's asking.
Oh, you mean when you're visualizing the brand? Oh yeah, of course. That's definitely with.
Okay, great. I see a couple more chats coming in. Skincare. Sorry about that. Not cosmetic, skincare. I'm learning. I'm trying my best here. Okay, I think, what's the best way, Sharon? We're going to have some networking time for those that are on the live session. This will be also, of course, a recording for those listening in the future. We can link it up on the show notes. What are some ways people could get started, connecting with you or Tmall for this business venture?
I think for me, LinkedIn is definitely the easiest way to reach me.
Okay.
If you just type in my full name, I should
Okay.
there should not be another Sharon Gai yet.
And we'll put it also on the show notes too, so people can find that. All right, Sharon. Any other last things you want to add to our main knowledge sharing session before we jump into the tables?
I not so much. I guess just I think the Chinese market is definitely a very interesting one to explore. It's also one, I think, if you're an entrepreneur or a brand builder, it's just an interesting one to learn, even if it fails or it goes nowhere. It's just a good market to know if you're working in the consumer space. But everybody, of course, to each their own, and to each their own path that every brand wants to pick. But it is the world's largest consumer market.
For sure.
Potential.
I do have a last question before we go on to the.
Yeah, go ahead, Catherine.
So, in terms of company structure setup, Mike was asking that before. You can set up a company in Hong Kong and then sell on the Tmall platform. Do you have to then set up another company in the mainland China?
No,
you don't. In order to do brand registration, etc. Because I know some of the mark registration via.
So that's again the biggest difference between Tmall Global and Tmall. So if you want to do Tmall, then you do have to have a Chinese company. You have to be registered, your brand has to be registered here, or some version of your brand has to be registered here. The goods have to be already located in China, so your warehouse has to be also in China, because Tmall.com is a local-to-local play. It's a local-to-local platform, versus Tmall Global is your good can technically sit anywhere in the world, and Tmall Global will have different ways to import it into China. It can sit in Hong Kong, which is very close to mainland, or it can sit in your home country in the US or Europe. There's a ton of different solutions that Tmall Global has enabled throughout the years for the flexibility of foreign brands to work with this platform.
Okay,
awesome. Great. Yeah, thanks so much, Sharon. Really, I think a lot of people got a lot from this today. And so we have a little bit more time for the tables section. And thanks everybody for tuning in live in the recording. So we're going to flip to the table mode. Okay, everybody? Do you enjoy the show? We would love feedback from you. iTunes reviews, YouTube, subscribing, sharing. If you're on our Chinese social media, subscribe there. Let us know what you think. We're trying different formats. We're doing these in the mornings and the evenings. Seems like people prefer the live recording in the evening, Asia time. We are global from Asia, but we have people from the US and in Europe tuning in. The feedback is appreciated, and I really hope you enjoy the show. Thank you. Thank you, Sharon. It's really awesome. I'm really happy you shared with us. And she's realizing there's a lot we need to learn. I maybe we'll get her back on the show. She has so much information to share, and I'm really happy we had somebody at Alibaba helping with us to get this information to you. I hope everybody's enjoying. Subscribe, like, iTunes reviews, YouTube. We are in every kind of channel now. We're in Chinese channels and English channels. We want to get this knowledge as far as wide. If you tuned in on a live show, thank you so much for tuning in live. We're streaming this on Facebook too. We're trying to upgrade the show and help more people because, unfortunately, the Chinese market has always been a really challenging thing and high barriers to entry, high costs. So we do hope this show has helped you, and we would love to hear how this has helped you get to the next level in your business. And I think it's always about taking, incremental steps, writing down a list of things you need to do, who we need to talk to. We have people in this community. Sharon looks very helpful too. She's just signed up with us too, so that's really great. We want to help people, and we want to get this out there. I'd love to know how this has worked for you. You can shoot us an email, blog@globalfromasia.com, or to me, mike@globalfromasia.com, and we want to hear from you. Without further ado, take action, make it happen. I really appreciate you making it all the way through to this ending of the show, whether you're watching this on video or listening to this in our audio. Thank you. Have a great day.
To get more info about running an international business, please visit our website at www.globalfromasia.com. That's www.globalfromasia.com. Also, be sure to subscribe to our iTunes feed. Thanks for tuning in.